And anyway, it's going to be a fruitful evening for all those who have joined. We have 2 more minutes.
Betsy ma'am, I hope we can start.
Yes, please start. I hope, yes, it's 7, no? Yes,
Yes, ma'am, it's
please.
7.
Yes.
So, good evening, everyone. So delighted to see you all in this virtual platform of deliberation, Chrysalis, which has successfully now moved on to its third session with the beginning of the academic year 2023-24, and it's envisaged to continue its tradition of informing and enlightening sessions with added events. Chrysalis 3, a commemorative lecture series, is organized by the Research and Postgraduate Department of English in collaboration with the IQAC, St. Aloysius College, Thrissur, Kerala, in fond remembrance of our beloved teachers, Dr. Danya Menon, Reverend Father Anthony Kuttikar, and Professor M.T. Paul Davis. So, without much delay, I welcome you all to this very platform for discussion. The title of today's presentation is The Epistemology of Impurity or Purity, with the specific reference to Tantric texts and rituals. And this lecture will be delivered by Ms. Sudipta Chakraborty, a full-time residential doctor scholar, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Kharagpur. And the chair of today's session is Dr. Chitralega Bishwas, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Techno Main Salt Lake College, Kolkata. Her PhD was from Jadavpur University, focusing on Raj writing. On behalf of everyone from the St. Aloysius College, Thrissur, we welcome both of you to this platform. Now I'm handing over the session to the chair of today's session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Meera. So, I would like to thank and share my gratitude.
Excuse me, I don't know whether it is my problem, Dr. Chitralega, but your volume seems to be slightly low.
Okay, can you hear me, ma'am? Now?
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So, I would like to thank Dr. Betsy Palsy, the director and coordinator of the Research Center in
Thank
English
you.
of St. Aloysius College. I would also like to thank Dr. Libison KB, the IQAC coordinator, and principal Dr. Chakso Jose P, for inviting me to chair the session. And good evening, all, everyone who are present. Now I would like to introduce the speaker of our session, the Sudipta Chakraborty. Sudipta Chakraborty, I would like to introduce her with a little note. Mrs. Sudipta Chakraborty was a former assistant professor of English literature at the Directorate of Distance and Open Learning at Kolani University, West Bengal. She is currently working as a full-time residential doctoral scholar at the Department of Humanities and Social Science, IIT Kharagpur. She has earned her MPhil degree in 20th century American modernist fiction. She has authored 8 articles in international and national level publications and has delivered talks at international and national level conferences in India and abroad. Her area of interests are Indic philosophy, goddess traditions, South Asian religious studies, American modernist literature, and border studies. Her title of the session is The Epistemology of Impurity, with specific reference to Tantric texts and rituals. So I'd like to welcome Mrs. Sudipta Chakraborty. Over to you, Sudipta.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this beautiful introduction. Very good evening, everyone. Thank you, the organizing committee of St. Aloysius College, Kerala, for inviting me to deliver the talk. I want to thank Professor Chakosum Jospi, Honorable Principal of St. Aloysius College. I also want to thank Dr. Levison KB, IQAC Coordinator, and especially I want to thank Professor Betsy, Director, Research Center in English and Coordinator, and a very good friend of mine for inviting me to deliver this talk. I have got to know about the date only a few days ago. So, however, I cannot defer the date because Professor Betsy's cordiality and earnest wish make everything happen within a very brief period of time. As a scholar working in religious studies, I think my talk might need to be clarified for my audience. However, I'll explain everything and try my best to deliver a self-explanatory talk. This evening, the thrust area of my talk is Shaktatantric unconventional unique discourse of im/purity with particular reference to Shaktatantric rituals. Here is a particular explanation which I think I need to give because earlier I have mentioned I'll be speaking with close reference to Shaktatantric texts and rituals. But textual discussion is a very elaborate one. So I think for this and 1 hour would be very insufficient. That is why I have planned to exclude the textual references. But obviously in my talk I have given references from the Shaktatantric classical works. But especially this evening I'll be talking with particular reference to Shaktatantric rituals. Mm, So, may I start?
Yes, please.
Yes, Sudipta, you may start, please.
Okay. Um, Before beginning my talk, I want to seek blessing from Devi, the great goddess, who animates us and everything in the universe. Here I am reciting a famous hymn from the Shaktatantric text known as Yogini Hridaya Tantra. Obeisance be to her who is pure being consciousness bliss, as the power who exists in the form of time and space, and all that is therein, who is the radiant illuminatrix in all beings. The most significant characteristic of Shaktatantra is its monist approach to the world. Therefore, Shaktism puts the binaries of the world under erasure. If one analyzes the epistemology of impurity through a tantric lens, one would see a radically different theory of impurity endorsed by Shaktism. The concept of impurity in this unique epistemology is continuously blurred, and analysis of the notion of impurity places the researcher into a slippery zone of aporia, according to the terminology of Jacques Derrida. Shaktatantra radically deconstructs the existing ritually or societally accepted epistemology of impurity and simultaneously re-epistemolizes an alternative discourse of purity and impurity colored by its monism. It radically questions what is pure, moreover, what is impure, how do we define it? Instead of a straitjacket definition or a dualistic theory, Tantric philosophy posits a sacred secular dimension of life, where both the pure and the impure co configure to embrace a monist vision of life. The talk focuses on this unique and unconventional Shaktotantric epistemology of impurity, with particular reference to Shaktotantric epistemology and rituals. Before delving deep into the Shaktotantric discourse of purity and pollution, let me define Tantra. Tantra is one of the divergent strands of Hinduism. Tantra derives from the Sanskrit verbal root tan, meaning weave or stretch. Tantra weaves the very fabric of life and harmoniously coalesces the aspect of materiality with that of spirituality. In the 5th century BCE, we find very sporadic references to the religious idea known as Tantra. The 17th to 19th century can be termed as the flourishing phase of Tantra. Tantra emerges as an opposition to Vedic scriptural authority and Vedic monopoly. Therefore, the Brahminical supremacy and caste hierarchy which informed Vedic traditions were questioned and also merely challenged by Shaktotantric ideas. Tantras are believed to be new revelations of knowledge, and the divine, himself or herself, is the source of the tantric knowledge. Tantra seeks to transcend the binaries of caste, purity, rituals, and orthodox approach to life, posited and embraced by Vedic philosophy. Tantra is a religious doctrine within Hinduism, and Tantric epistemology has various modes of conceptualizing the divine. Within Hinduism, tantric modes of conceptualizing the divine vary greatly. Within Hinduism, Hindu Tantra, three major subcategories are visible: Shaiva Tantra, Vaishnava Tantra, and Shakta Tantra. Shaiva Tantra that accepts the supremacy of Lord Shiva. Vaishnava Tantra eulogizes Lord Vishnu as the supreme deity. Shakta Tantra espouses the great goddess or Shakti, also known as Devi, as the creatrix and mediatrix of the universe. Buddhism and Jainism also adopt this aspect of religious path embraced by tantric rituals and philosophy. Within Buddhism, there are various strands of tantric references. But Tibetan Buddhism, like Shakta Tantra, espouses the supremacy of the feminine divine absolute Shakti. The similarity between Shakta Tantra and Tibetan Buddhism is so much that Tibetan Buddhism is also called Shakta Buddhism. Shakta Tantra worships Devi as the Shakti or energy of the universe, which animates everything. Simultaneously, Shakta Tantra eulogizes Devi as an insentient being as well. She is matter and spirit. She is insentience and consciousness. She is creation and destruction. She is the disease and health. Shaktotantric theology views the great goddess through a monist lens. The laudatory hymns to Jagadhatri, a Shaktotantric deity, who is also another manifestation of the great goddess known as Devi in Shaktotantric theory. Here, the hymn eulogizes Devi as Shavakare Shakti Rupe. It means the goddess is both the corpse and also she is the vibrant energy of the universe. Her sacred energy pervades the domains of consciousness and insentience. So, in Shaktotantric doctrine, a radical reconciliation is required between Devi as pure transcendence and Devi as pure corporeality. Devi as the ultimate source of universal life and Devi as a corpse. I firmly believe this profound problematics gives rise to the most exciting, heroic, and challenging ecotheological exploration ever undertaken in the subcontinent. The solution to this problem is the solution to the essential question of existence. What is life? What is death? Can they ever be reconciled? Can we erase the border between life and death? Furthermore, it makes possible a situation where they bleed into each other. Can we find a divinity that occupies the most palpable forms of materiality and the transcendental realms? Shaktotantric philosophy accepts Devi as the animator of the universe, and she is Prakriti, the creative feminine principle. In Indic philosophy, if we look at Shankho philosophy or Shankho doctrine, there are two terms, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha means pure consciousness, and Prakriti is insentience. Purusha, Purusha means the spirit, and Prakriti means here the matter. Therefore, Shankho doctrine operates on a binaristic assumption where Purusha or spirit can be termed as an active force. Prakriti in Shankha philosophy is inert. She also dances to enchant Purusha. The dancing Prakriti invites Purusha into the creative flux of the universe. Thus, the creation of lives has become possible. However, Shankha epistemology denigrates Prakriti as inert. Therefore, liberation is only possible for Purusha to achieve in the Shankha worldview. Shankha doctrine constructs a binary between the spirit and the matter, between consciousness and insentience, between the soul and the corporeality or the body, and between the level of divinity and the mundane zones. Nevertheless, the liberation offered by the Shankha doctrine is based on an eliminative principle. It dissociates the matter from the spirit. Liberation here becomes dissociated from a vision of simultaneously spiritual and material eudaimonia, which Shakta Tantra foregrounds. Shankha philosophy believes that the universe is made up of energy and matter. Nevertheless, is it possible to define matter as something jada or inert? The matter is also a form of organized energy. If we look at the recent Western theories like new materialism, new materialism in recent times has already acknowledged that, I'm quoting, matter is not an inert passive entity for a new materialist who rejects the dualistic opposition of matter and spirit and postulates an anti binaristic principle. In this view, matter is always an elusive and complex object. As an intellectual enterprise, neo-materialism demands more critical attention to the materiality of matter. The new materialists claim the agency of the material world. Therefore, they demystify the long-standing illusion of the subjective agency of living beings' workings upon matter. The force of materiality is considered to be a phenomenon of the liveliness of the living matter, which is a very famous phrase in neo-materialist theory. It is invented by Jones. Jane Bennett has coined the phrase agency of matter, which is synonymous with the phrase liveliness of living matter. Therefore, neo-materialism examines plurality in any critical understanding of matter. Neo-materialism's acceptance of the agency of matter does away with the privileging of human agency in handling matter. This theory nullifies anthropocentric dominance over the material object in order to posit the notion of the non-static, dynamic energy concentrated in matter. Therefore, human beings confront a universe that human agency is unable to dominate or control. It is this dynamic materiality of the universe that determines and redesigns humans. In a comparable way, posthumanism prioritizes the material dimension of the world to such an extent that it is not only eliminates the human sovereignty over matter, but also brackets off the discrete entity in nature as the humans. Therefore, the Western theoretical understandings in recent times have accepted the dynamic quality of the matter. Both neo-materialism and posthumanism proponents concentrate on a universe composed of non-static matter. Furthermore, the humans are subject to the material realm of the universe. They can't merely control the matter. Instead, the material dimension of the universe takes charge of humans. In the West, neo-materialism takes its birth in the 1990s. Rossi Braidetti and Manuel Delander's theories are first considered the neo-materialist theories. Posthumanism as a critical Western theory had its genesis in 1977. Ayhav Hassan coined the term and defined posthumanism in his article Prometheus as a long performer towards a post-humanist culture. Centuries before these Western theories, Shakta Tantra embraced and valorized matter not as an inert substance but as a dynamic form of organized energy. In the cosmotheistic universe of Shakta Tantra, this matter is revered as the great goddess or Devi. Even the post-humanist discourse of a human being's inability to control the material universe is interpreted through the theistic lens of Shakta Tantra as the devotee's humble surrender to the lotus feet of the goddess. Shaktatantric epistemology believes that the great goddess is the entire universe. The cosmic body of the goddess pervades the universe. She inhabits the tiny blade of grass, the mountains, and even inside the human soul. In the Devi Gita, a very famous Shakta text, the gods witnessed the entire universe remain encapsulated within Devi's cosmic body. The body is known as Viraj in the book Devi Gita. So, how do we define Tantra? The question again comes. Shakta Tantra is a religious doctrine, a path of spirituality and a philosophy, which encompasses an altruistic zeal to serve the universe. In this epistemology, Devi is believed to be the world mother who nourishes and cares for all her offsprings. Often, she has manifested herself in her destructive forms to ward off the evil from the lives of her offsprings and her created universe. Shakta spirituality has dislodged the goddess from her theocentric citadel and placed her in life's secular domains as well. Therefore, in this worldview, the goddess is both sacred and secular. She is both immanent and transcendent. She is creation and destruction. She is in order and in disorder. She is the basic essence of stability and she is also chaos. She is pure and impure. As I have already argued in the previous section of my talk, Shakta Tantra does away with the binaries or dualisms of the world. Tantric lens is radically very different from our conventional societal lens. I quote here a very significant observation made by Deborah Willoughby. Willoughby is a very renowned scholar of Shakta Tantra. I'm quoting her word. uh, we must not comprehend what we see when we look at Shakta Tantra until we enlarge our view of reality. Because the Tantric vision is radically different from ours. Accomplished Tantrics see the world and everything in it as an indivisible whole, a tangible manifestation of the Divine Mother. This is neither a metaphor for them nor a philosophical premise. It is a living, breathing reality where we see duality, young and old, pure and impure. A tantric adept sees one. The Divine Mother is not in the world. In fact, she is the world. Indeed, she is the entire universe. And to see any difference between the individual self and her, or between her and any natural force or cosmic influence, is a misperception. Mary Douglas, in her epoch-making book Purity and Danger, an analysis of the concepts of pollution and taboo, refers to the primitive religion where the borderline between the sacred and the profane is continuously blurred. Even the very constructions of the ideas or the notions of pure and impure are largely shaped by culture, religion, ethnic identity. It is never ever an apolitical act. It's a political act. Douglas cites examples from Maori cultures. Maoris are, all of us we know, indigenous tribes of New Zealand. They consider menstrual blood as impure element, as it would have become a person. So it has the impossible status of a dead person that has never lived. Shaktotantric epistemology deconstructs the conventional notions of purity and pollution. Tantra believes in monism. Again, I reiterate, therefore, the binaristic assumptions about the world are deconstructed in Shaktatantric theology to posit a monist worldview based on the principle of Sarvang Sarvatmakam. It's a Sanskrit term. It means that the constituents of all things reside in everything. Therefore, we can't separate anything. We can't separate anybody from another person. We can't separate a single atom from another one. They are intermingled, they are inseparable, they are indivisible whole. As a religious doctrine, Shaktatantra valorizes the epistemology of pollution and impurity. Because as a philosophy and spiritual dimension, Shaktism has put the binary of pure and impure under eraser. What is pure is not different from the impure because the impure elements can transfer into a pure substance. Moreover, both the domains of pure and impure are hyphenated and conjoined by the sacred secular presence of the goddess. In Shakta Tantra, if we broadly categorize the spheres where the elements of pollution merely exist very heavily or loudly, we can broadly classify them into four subcategories. One is on the epistemological level, second is on the concept of ritual objects, and the third is the idea related to space. Epistemologically, Shaktatantra redefines the very concept of divinity using the notion of impurity, and also Shaktatantra offers the polluting elements to the great goddess as an inseparable part of the left-handed Shaktatantric ritual. And third is they perform sacred worship of the great goddess in places famously known as impure grounds. So, first, let me define or let me explain this section epistemological redefinition of divinity using the notion of pollution and impurity. Shaktatantric theorization of divinity encompasses the polluting and impure elements. The most palpable and graphic representations of the tantric espousal of impurity is the conceptualization of divinity, can be traced in the Sati myth and the iconography and myth of the Shaktatantric goddess Chinnamasta. Devi's corpse is not an inert object. Instead, it carries the energy of the goddess in kinetic form. Here I quote my professor, Dr. Anoy Mukhopadhyay's brilliant observation in his celebrated work, The Goddess in Hindu Tantric Traditions, Devi as Corpse. Uh, it is a momentous image, that is, the corpse, even physically, carries the energy of life. Furthermore, this image of the living corpse, so to speak, becomes most horrendously and powerfully represented by the figure of the goddess Chinnamasta. We may see the figure of the corpse of Sati as the encapsulation of the spirituality of the flesh and fleshiness of the spirit in the most radical context of death. Here, I think in this context, I think I need to share the iconography of goddess Chinnamasta because the iconography is very interesting. An apparent look of that iconography might give us the idea that it's very horrendous, very fear invoking, or very obnoxious, or very obscene. But I'll explain the philosophy behind it. Just let me share the picture. Is my screen visible to everyone?
Yes, yes, it's visible,
Yes,
Sudipta.
yes. So just have a look at the iconography of Chinnamasta. I'll explain. I'll explain. So I don't have many slides. I have only this single iconography of Chinnamasta for this talk. So just have a look. I'll return back to Chinnamasta's iconography and its explanation. And just keep in mind for the timing the idea of the living corpse. The corpse is not inert. It's not dead. It contains the sacred energy of life, and simultaneously it is dead. It is a peculiar category. Just think about it. I'll get back to it. In the Orthodox Hinduism, the corpse is emblematic of impurity and pollution. Therefore, the conceptualization of the image of divinity as a corpse remains unbelievable and impossible in Orthodox tradition. Here, let me explain briefly the myth of Sati and goddess Chinnamasta. Sati is another incarnation of the great goddess or Devi in Shaktatantric epistemology. In her incarnation as Shakti, Devi is the daughter of King Daksha. Moreover, Lord Shiva is her husband. Her father, Daksha, arranged an excellent fire sacrifice ceremony and invited everyone except his son in law Shiva and his own daughter Sati. Daksha was repulsive of Shiva because of his simple attitude and manners. This act of arrogance infuriated Devi, incarnated as Sati. She has taken her 10 Mahavidya forms to manifest her destructive nature. I have already mentioned that often the goddess manifested herself in the negative forms, in the destructive forms. The 10 Mahavidyas are the negative forms of divinity. and it is they represent as a group the negative aspect of divinity, and their task is to destroy or to complete the act of destruction so that the universe can return back to its normal order. Ultimately, she has manifested herself as goddess Kali and journeys towards the palace of Daksha, where the fire sacrifice ritual was organized. Seeing his daughter in her horrible dark complexion and looking at her unkempt appearance, Daksha insulted Lord Shiva. Daksha also humiliated his daughter Sati, forgetting that she is the world mother, who, as a plea to Daksha's prayer, consented to manifest herself as his daughter Sati. Sati has self immolated herself in the fire of the fire sacrifice ceremony. After Sati's death, Lord Shiva appeared there. He destroyed the entire place and started to dance, his destructive dance, keeping his beloved wife's body on his shoulder. The destructive dance of Shiva shook the entire universe. The gods make a plan. The Lord Vishnu, with his Sudarshan Chakra, cuts up Sati's corpse into 51 pieces. 51 holy Shakti shrines take its birth from each of the body parts of Sati. These 51 Shakti shrines take their birth not from abstract ideas of divinity. The corpse of Shakti and her tangible body parts constitute these sacred shrines in Shaktism. Here we see the Shaktotantric deconstruction of acceptable notions of purity and pollution. The corpse, which is a source of abjection, according to the terminology of Julia Kristeva, has become the matrix of sacrality in Shakta spirituality. Here I'm quoting Kristeva's definition of abject, or his ideas about the corpse. She's saying, I'm quoting, the corpse seen without God and outside of science is the utmost of abjection. It is a death infecting life, abject. It is something rejected from which one does not part, from which one does not protect oneself as from an object. Imaginary, uncanniness, and the real threat it beckons to us and ends up engulfing us. As a polluting element, the corpse is an object of horror. Hence, a forbidden object gets questioned from the Shaktotantric perspective. For Kristeva, the mother or the maternal body and the death or the corpse are equally objected and seen as the source of fundamental pollution. Tantric epistemology erases the borderline between purity and impurity, and in this monist vision, de objectifies the corpse as the divine energy inhabits it in the kinetic form. This unique Shaktotantric espousal of Devi's corpse as the most sacred object of worship and veneration is signaled by Shiva's profound respect and attachment to his wife Sati's corpse. Here, Shiva appears in the image of a Birachari Shakta practitioner. Birachari means heroic. All the Shakta practitioners are believed to be heroes because they have transcended the artificial ideas of fear. They are fearless, who transcends and purposefully blurs the borderline between life and death, purity and impurity, attraction and repulsion. The same image and epistemology of divinity are reflected in the myth and iconography of another tantric goddess, Chinnamasta. Here, just pay it to the iconography of Chinnamasta and just have a look at it. You have the screen in front of you. She is one of the 10 Mahavidyas and an incarnation of Devi. Um, Two or three narratives exist about her origin in Mahabhagavata and other Hindu legends. In Buddhism, also, there is a reference to the tantric goddess Chinnamunda. In her book, Chinnamasta, the awful Buddhist and Hindu tantric goddess, Elizabeth Ann Bennett traces the Hindu legend of Chinnamasta from its Buddhist roots. The Buddhist Shaktotantric deity Chinnamunda has taken the name Chinnamasta in Hindu tantric legends. In the Sadhanamala Tantra, Chinnamasta's iconography depicts her as a yellow complexioned deity who holds in her left hand her severed head, which she severed with her scimitar held in her right hand. She is nude. From a decapitated body, three blood streams are issuing forth. Two streams go into the mouths of her female companions, Dakini and Varnini, and another bloodstream goes into her decapitated head, and she is standing on the copulating figures of Rati and Kama. About Chinnamasta's origin, the uh, Pranatoshini Tantra narrativizes this particular anecdote. One day, Devi Parvati went to Mandakini river to bathe with her two female companions, Dakini and Varnini. They were hungry and they implored the goddess to mitigate their hunger. Parvati has severed her head and mitigated their hunger with her blood. Simultaneously, she has drunk her blood in order to sustain herself. In Chinnamasta's iconography, life and death, pollution and purity, sacred and profane bleed into each other. Scholars like Elizabeth Ann Baynard and Nila Bhattacharya Saxena view the goddess as a living corpse where the artificial dualities of life and death elide. In this light, Chinnamasta's iconography can be viewed as the awakened energy self of Devi as a corpse. She erases the notion of purity and pollution and posits a notion of divinity which is sacred and secular. Therefore, Shaktatantra as a philosophy radically epistemologizes death and life, purity and pollution in the most radical context of life and death. Now, let me get back to the second section of the discourse of impurity in Shaktatantric theology. Here, they always offer the polluting elements as an inseparable part of the left-handed Shaktatantric ritual. Shaktatantric rituals can be classified into various categories. Left and right-handed tantric rituals are broad classifications. The householders ideally practice right-handed tantra, whereas powerful ascetics, yogis, and Shaktatantric practitioners adopt left-handed tantric rituals. The left-handed tantric rituals are also called Bamachar. In this context, it is relevant to mention that in Orthodox Vedic and Hindu discourse, the left hand is less pure than the right. Therefore, the right hand is used to perform any sacred, auspicious act or ritual. Shaktotantric left handed rituals subvert this binary of Orthodox Vedic tradition. In left handed tantric rituals, the Panchatattva um, ritual is being performed, where the five polluting elements are offered to the goddess as an inseparable part of tantric worship. These five elements are alcohol, meat, parched grain, which acts like an intoxicant, fish, and sexual fluid. The left handed tantric rituals need to be followed by those of a heroic nature. This method of worshipping the divine is dangerous because any kind of flaw in the meditation might harm the practitioner himself or herself, or it might even cause his or her death. The Shangama Tantra prescribes that left handed tantric rituals should worship Kali, Tara, Tripura Sundari, Vairavi, Chinnamasta, Bogola, and Matungi. As mentioned above, a close observation of the ritual worship of these goddesses foregrounds that they prefer polluting substances as an offering. For example, Matungi is offered leftover food, an impure ritual element, very much unusual in mainstream Hindu religious tradition. Matungi refers pollution and requires the devotees to be in a state of pollution. Apart from leftover food, menstrual blood is also offered to Matungi as a sacred ritual element in her worship. The corpse-centric meditation in left-handed tantric ritual is another instance where the stereotypical binary of pollution and purity has been jeopardized. Shaktotantric ritual of the corpse-centric meditation makes a Shakto adept fearless. As I have already argued, a corpse is a source of horror and abjection, taking a cue from Christev's theory of abjection. But when a Shakto adept meditates sitting on the corpse, followed by particular secret tantric rituals, that adept must overcome his mortal fears. Even he must transcend the artificial binary of purity and impurity as he has embraced the corpse as a holy element of his ascetic practice. The most abominable polluted corpse has been transformed into a pure ritual substance. If a Shakto adept achieves siddhi or success in his dauntless venture of corpse-centric meditation, the goddess manifests herself in the corpse. Therefore, from an impure, horrible element, Shakta spirituality has metamorphosed the corpse, the most sacred and revered reservoir of sacred divine energy. The Shaktatantric ritual of corpse-centric meditation aims to lessen the imagined ontological gap between life and death. Shakta spirituality reiterates that life, death, energy, matter are a continuum. There is no gap. There is no ontological gap. The sacred presence of Devi hyphenates life and death in both these cycles. We also find corpse centric rituals in Buddhism, but in Buddhism, a corpse is viewed as the ultimate end of life. Therefore, when an ascetic in Buddhism meditates sitting on a corpse, the aim is to enlighten the ascetic about the ultimate reality of the body and life, which you turn into a corpse. The corpse in this ritual of Buddhism symbolizes nothingness ultimately and circumscribes the Buddhist philosophy of shunyata or emptiness. Shaktotantric corpse-centric meditation contrarily enlightens the Shakto practitioner about the Purnota. It's a Sanskrit term, it means the fullness of life. The corpse is not an inert polluting element. Instead, it is inhabited by the sacred energy of Devi in kinetic form. Therefore, between Shakta Tantra and Buddhism, there remain epistemological differences about corpse-centric meditation. The left-handed tantric ritual also prescribes the sexual union of a male Shakta adept with a female companion. The female must not be his wife, but his companion in his religious meditation. Here, the woman needs to be from the lower strata of society, or she can be someone with an ill social reputation. Before being involved in a sexual union with that woman, a male Sakta practitioner needs to respect the woman as the embodiment of Devi. This is called the Kali practice in Shakta spirituality. Here, the male adept, the male sadhaka, being a masculine subject, he will wash her feet and offer her food. Moreover, finally, he will worship her following rigorous tantric rituals. When he has a sexual union with his female companion, he will continue to respect her and surrender his masculine ego and arrogance to her as she is respected as the embodiment of Devi. This tantric ritual has drawn enormous attention. It's so largely that Tantra has been defamed and considered as an aberration of Hinduism based on this single ritual practice. Now, the philosophy beneath the practice needs to be understood. In the Shakti ritual, a woman is respected as an embodiment of Shakti. The goddess said that she had shared her gender with the women. Therefore, the female body is the natural seat of Shakti or energy for the Devi. Shaktism believes sex is the highest form of energy, and sexual bliss can only be compared to the bliss of union with the divine. Shakta sadhana aims to awaken their Shakti, and by altruistic service to the material world, a Shakta yogi can ultimately achieve liberation. Liberation is only achieved when a Shakta devotee gets united with the Devi. In the sexual ritual of Shakta Tantra, a male adept and his female companion imitate the union of Shiva and Shakti. But in this practice, they must not be slaves to lust. Their practices aim to withstand or merely conquer lust. Their quest is to transform Eros into a spiritualized Eros, which enables a lesser mortal to become aware of his tremendous potential or Shakti, with which he can serve the material universe. Shaktotantric philosophy emphasizes the well being of the material realm of the universe because the goddess is both the matter and the spirit. A Sadhaka cannot achieve spiritual liberation without serving the material domain of life. Unlike Cartesian dualism or Shankar dualism, Shaktatantra blurs the borderline between mind and body, spirit and matter, consciousness and insentience, and pure and impure. As all these irreconcilable domains are harmoniously hyphenated and permeated by the great goddess. Now let me move to the third section where Shaktatantra defies or also subverts the discourse of pure space. They always offer the worship to the goddess in the places famously known as impure or polluted grounds. In the discourse of religious studies, place is a non homogeneous category. Rajmani Tigunait, in his seminal work, Tantra Unveiled, Seducing the Forces of Matter and Spirit, he emphatically asserts that Tantra is a science. Just like a scientist, a tantric adept needs his laboratory too. A scientist can only succeed in his research with a laboratory and the proper environment. A tantric adept similarly needs a suitable place to be successful in his sadhana or tantric meditation. The vast, open nature and its specific places act as a laboratory for a tantric practitioner. For instance, cremation grounds, deserted landscapes, riversides, and dense forests. These places are considered appropriate for tantric rituals and meditations. The key to success in tantric rituals is secrecy. Therefore, adept tantrics practice their sadhana or meditation in depopulated or infamous places. In traditional Hindu discourse, the cremation ground or deserted landscape must not function as a suitable place for worshipping the divine. Here, Shaktotantric epistemology deconstructs the binary of purity and impurity and redefines a unique epistemology of purity and pollution, which harmoniously co configure. Rajmani Tigunai sheds light on the non homogeneous nature of space in Tantric philosophy. The holy Shakta shrines act as the reservoir of the divine energy. In comparison to other spaces in those shrines, divine energy is felt more palpably. The adept tantrics aim to carry out their spiritual practice in these places so that they can be successful in their ventures. Here I am quoting an important observation made by Rajmani Tigunai, who is also a leading scholar of Shakta Tantra. He's saying some shrines have been occupied for thousands of years by tantrics who have undertaken the same or a similar practice, and there the energy is so well polarized that if we live in the vicinity and undertake a compatible practice, we are naturally immersed in the stream of energy and glide toward the goal almost without any effort. On the other hand, if we undertake a practice that is not compatible with the energy of the site, we'll confront formidable obstacles. Other sites, such as Allahabad, have been the hub of hundreds of tantric practices, and therefore, within the radius of a dozen miles or so, almost any kind of tantric sadhana will be fruitful. And because thousands of devout practitioners and millions of faithful pilgrims visit Allahabad every year, they perpetuate the concentration of spiritual energy there. As a result, the city is called Tirtha Raja, or the Lord of all shrines. In Shaktotantric epistemology, such 17 shrines have been mentioned where a devotee can feel the awakening energy of the goddess more palpably. Now I have reached the concluding section of my talk. Shaktotantric rituals seem abominable, repulsive, and a violation of the civil codes of society. However, minute analysis of these rituals enlightens one about the profound philosophy on which these rituals are based. Shakta philosophy does not taboo the sexual union of a male tantric and his female companion, where both can be guru and disciple. This sounds bizarre and unbelievable in civil social norms. Here, Shakta Tantra posits the theory of primordial incest. The famous Shakta Puranas like Devi Bhagavata and Devi Mahatmam posit that at the beginning of the universe only Devi exists, as she is the creator of the universe, and the entire universe is replete with water. Devi created Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and made them meditate on her because she needed to choose her male consort to start the process of creation in the universe. While the three gods were meditating, Devi assumed the shape of an abominable corpse and kept floating near them. Vishnu left his seat, unable to tolerate the smell of the stinking corpse. Brahma turned his face in three directions and finally left his seat. The foul smell of the corpse hindered his meditation. Nevertheless, when the corpse comes near to Shiva, being the wise ascetic, Shiva realizes that it is Devi in the guise of an abominable corpse. He sat on the corpse and started to meditate. Now the moment symbolizes the union of Shakti and Shiva. Keeping Shiva with her, Shakti drowns herself in the water and creation begins. Therefore, Shakti is eternally married to Shiva. He is her husband, but also her son. The universe has taken shape and color from this primordial incestuous relationship. In the notions of purity and impurity, Shaktotantric theory undermines and blurs the stereotypical assumptions of caste, gender, and strict social hierarchies because all of these create division between the goddess and her created universe. Shaktotantric philosophy is an anthropocentric one which aims to nourish, care, and embrace the humans, non humans, animals, and inanimate objects of the universe in this world. Because all these domains have been threaded and unified by the sacred energy of the great goddess. She is the world, and all the universe's inhabitants are her diverse manifestations. This unique philosophy of Sarvang Sarvatmakam, the presence of divinity in everything, is a unique theological assertion that can solve all the problems and injustices of the world. Which, because the world is suffering from evils like homophobia, racism, casteism, gender segregation, and communal intolerance. Shaktatantra erases the artificial binaries of purity and impurity and epistemologically defines the unique discourse of spirituality where the binaries are deconstructed to offer a monist worldview that is sacred and secular. The construction of an alternative epistemology of purity and impurity can be seen in Shaktatantra as an endeavor to celebrate the existential Jonsa. Thank you for your patience. Now I'm ending here.
Thank you, Sudipta, for your remarkable talk. I think we are overwhelmed and fascinated by her insights on the Sapta Tantric philosophy. Now, before opening the panel for further discussions and questions and maybe suggestion, I would like to ask this is not a question, but I would like her insights because Sapta Tantric tradition, religious tradition, is a very popular one, right? But we see that in present time also, it has not gained the required popularity. And why do you think so? And what could be the reasons behind this lack of interest or lack of any particular or research work on this topic? So, if you give us a little bit of insight on that.
Yeah. It's first of all, I must thank you, Professor Bishash, for this interesting question. It's very relevant and interesting question at the same time. Why? Because Shaktotantra is a very different philosophy. Why? Because it is a religious path. It is a science of healing. It can heal lot of ailments, and at the same time, it is a philosophy also. But Shaktotantric lens is radically different from ours because I have quoted Willoughby's observations that Shaktotantric lens is radically different from ours. Whenever we are viewing a Shaktotantric universe, it is very bizarre. Bizarre in that sense, if we want to apply our typical societal lens, societal conventional lens. Shaktatantra seems very unconventional because what is conventional or what is unconventional? If anyone asks us to define, it is very difficult because whatever the majority is doing in the society, whatever the majority of humanity is doing is defined as very acceptable or very much very common practice or natural, normal. Whatever the very minority of humanity or the minor section of human beings are doing is continuously labeled as abnormal, bizarre, unconventional, and not very famous, or rather, I would say, not very much popular. So Shaktotantric lens is very different because Shaktotantra, I can remember almost 6 months ago, I have been invited to deliver a talk on Shaktotantra in an international conference. Here, one participant asked me that why are you talking about this tantric tradition? It is very beautiful. It is very insightful talk. But the thing is that it's a dead religious tradition. But I was not surprised because whenever I talk about this topic, everybody, most of the people who don't know about it, because it's a very different religious idea altogether. Shaktotantra is a living, breathing, thriving tradition. It's not dead. Lots of practitioners, they're practicing it in secrecy. The key to success in tantric practice is secrecy. If you practice your sadhana in a secret way, keeping yourself secluded from the world, not in the sense not keeping your rituals invisible, then Shaktatantric sadhana will become fruitful, or the sadhaka will achieve siddhi or liberation in his practice. The thing is that Shaktotantric lens, they always talk about some unconventional ideas. See, Shaktotantra talks about this practice that from a lower strata of society, a male Shakto practitioner or a male yogi need to select his sadhan sangi, or the companion who would assist him in the path of spiritual practice. Now the female is from the lower caste of society. She might have some kind of evil reputation. She might be a prostitute. She might be any other menial worker. She must not be a respectable woman in the conventional sense of the term. So the woman, whenever that woman is being selected as the sadhan sangini, or the companion in the ritual practice of Shakta Sadhana, the male yogi, being a male, being the quote unquote male subject, he surrenders his ego, arrogance, and everything to the lotus feet of the female, imagining that she is the manifestation of Devi, she is the incarnation of Devi. So she must be revered, she must be respected and worshipped. A Shaktatantric very famous saying is that the household in a household, peace and prosperity will prevail if the male householders, if the male persons in the house would respect and would ascribe supremacy to the female practitioners, or the female members of the family. So it is continuously talking about the equality that the female, or as a female, we always seek for this kind of equality in the workplaces, in the lived social areas of our lives. So first of all, Shaktatantra erases the binary between masculine supremacy and feminine inferiority. Rather, it gives supremacy to the feminine energy, feminine self. And the same time, it talks about the rituals where they continuously subverts the typical hierarchies of caste, gender, class, ethnic issues, racism, even some issues based on like dark complexion or fair complexion. So all these binaries are getting inverted. See, this is not at all a feminist philosophy. More than feminist, it's an equalist philosophy where it tries to place everybody on the same plane, and only keeps the goddess in the citadel, because she is the creator and all are the same, all are the same. So the thing is that most importantly, the thing is that it actually elides, or it actually deconstructs epistemologically and practically. It deconstructs all the binaries, all the dualities of life. If I want to segregate you on the basis of your caste, on the basis of your skin color, on the basis of your racial identity, on the basis of your ethnicity, on the basis of your education, on the basis of your social space, social hierarchy, Shaktatantra nullifies everything. So there is no high or low culture. No, nobody is higher, nobody is lower. Everybody is same. Everybody is equal. So equalist discourse is very much unacceptable in the world, because we our humanness, our ingrained humanness is so difficult. It always makes us plot against each other, against humanity. So these days, our world is suffering from xenophobia, from Holocaust, from war, from racism, from gender issues. So, if you look at the history of the wars that had been fought in the past, and also the issues related to gender, caste segregation, everything is issuing forth from the binary that I am superior and you are inferior. If I continuously demolish the binary, the inferior and the superior, pure and impure, then we will be able to place each other on the same plane, and there will be no hierarchy. So everybody would be very fine, and everything will be very settled and solved, and our world will be a good habitable place. So I think this kind of equality is very much difficult to accept in the world. If we accept everything, then it creates some kind of problem, because we as a human beings, we don't, maybe this is our psychology, we don't want to settle things all the time. We sometimes we love mess, we love problem, we love difficulties, we love negativity. That is part of our nature, we can't deny it. So I think as a philosophy, that is one problem. And the another thing is that Shaktotantric philosophy talks about some rituals which are literally very much difficult to practice if you are not very much into it. The devout Shakta practitioners who always practice these things, who always believe in these rituals, they have a very strong, passionate assertion, and they just find meaning into all these things. whenever we are going to talk it to any other person who is not from this Shaktotantric background or not from a religious studies background, they always frown upon these things because and another important thing is that the Shaktotantric tradition basically emerged in India, in Nepal, basically, and in various other places of South Asia. But here, South Asian locations basically are geographically marginalized. Whatever the North is saying all over the globe, that is being very accepted as the typical acceptable white supremacist discourse. And whatever discourse is getting produced from the southern location of the globe is highly geopolitically marginalized. That is also the problem. So the representation of the Shaktotantric texts in the English literatures are very difficult because all the things are written almost centuries ago. So centuries ago, and everything is written in Sanskrit. Knowing Sanskrit is a very difficult thing. I know Sanskrit, that is an advantage for me, so that I have been able to work on this area. But the thing is that many people, they don't work, they don't know Sanskrit. So if you don't need the origin, if you don't read the original text, you won't be able to get the essence of that true Shaktotantric cult. And its representations are very much misinterpreted or misrepresented because the various other or Western researchers in the Western country, in United Kingdom and in Australia and also in America, many leading scholars are writing tons of books on Shaktatantra. They are doing very important and very brilliant works. But in India, as it is an Indic philosophy, essentially its root was Indic, but as Indians we are very much oblivious about it, we don't know it. Very handful number of Indians are working in this field. So basically we need more Indians, more indigenous researchers who would get interest in this field and will try to work on it, so that the world will be able to have an authentic representation of this Shaktotantric cult and the profound philosophy beneath the apparently seemingly bizarre rituals. These are the problems, I think.
Okay. So you were talking about the literatures in English and Bengali literature also. I would like to add a reference. Taradash Tantric, probably.
Yes.
Taradash Tantric by Tarnath Tantric. The text is Tarnath Tantric by Taradash Bandyopadhyay. So have you read the text and have you referred? I found it very interesting because
Yes, yes.
the thoughts that you have shared in your talk. So I found that I could relate it with the text only. So can you elaborate a little bit on that?
I think the tantric rituals, whenever we are encountering a literary text, for example, many English novels, English graphic novels are available. What we can read as an informed academic reader, we can read and we can interpret the theories with the practices and how they're getting reflected in the literature. That is one point. But I think the reference, you are referring to a very particular, very famous Bengali literature,
Yes.
where the this eponymous tantric is practicing his rituals, and basically he is believing in Shaktotantric features. Shaktotantric rituals and Shaktotantric epistemologies have been embraced by him. So it's a very beautiful representation of the Shaktotantric text. If anyone wants to write a paper or wants to work on the project, I think it would be a very good beginning. Yes, I completely agree with you.
So I think we have a few questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would
Ma'am,
like Meera. Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Can you please give us?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, about
Sure,
the
but
question.
before moving on to the questions placed in the chat box, we have a respondent for today's session. So, shall we go forth with her comments?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. Now, for today's session, the respondent is Miss Jida Johnny Chungat. I invite ma'am for your remarks. Ma'am?
Thank you, Ms. Sudipta, for a very thought-provoking session. And it was a very unique topic to discuss upon. The topic that she discussed was the Shakta Tantric epistemology of impurity with reference to Tantric rituals. She divided her whole session into three subsections. In the first section, she gave an introduction to the epistemology of Tantras, where she talked about the Shaiva tradition, the Vaishnava tradition, and the Shakta tradition. She also referred to how this Tantric rituals became a part of religion and culture, with a special reference to Tibetan Buddhism. She talked about the Maori culture, the Shango doctrine, and she also referred to how in Indian philosophy we divide Purusha and Prakriti, Purusha as active and Prakriti as nature. She also tried to connect it with the Western philosophy of new materialism and post-humanism. So, as I understood, Shakta Tantra is a path of it is a path of spirituality, and also it is considered as a doctrine. So she tried to explain the whole thing with the image of Chinnamosta, where she tried to explain how this image of in this image of the goddess Chinnamosta, the impure is transformed into purity. She also connected it with Julia Kristeva theory of the abject and abjection, how the corpse is considered to be the site of abject, and how the Tantric epistemology blurs the border between purity and impurity. In the second session of her lecture, she concentrated on the rituals and how the left-handed tantric rituals are performed, and especially in these rituals, the offerings are polluting substances. She gave examples of that. She elaborated with so much of examples. And in section 3, she was talking about the place and space for this tantric meditation. So she elaborated, or she briefly discussed about the particular spaces which is used for tantric meditation, and she entered her lecture with the concept of Shakti and Shiva, the feminine and the masculine, and how Shiva transforms into the feminine, or where the border is blurred. So the concept of Shakti and Shiva, and how Shakta Tantric philosophy negates or nullifies the divisions in society, the artificial binaries, and how Shakta Tantric traditions tries to create a space for unity in the universe. So, as I already told, it's a very unique topic. So, thank you once more, Sudipta, because I think none of us are so aware of this traditions of this or this tantric epistemology. So we are new to this, but I'm so happy to listen to such a talk, which was very informative and which was very interesting as well. How you tried to connect the Indian philosophy to the Western philosophy, and especially how you try to incorporate religion and culture, the cultural practices into these rituals. And now I'm not sure, I'm just asking the other Keralites, if you remember, there was a film acted by Mammootty. So I doubt whether he was offering, or he was a Shakta Tantric practitioner in that film. I don't remember the name of the film. With the
Is it
female
Atharva?
counterpart. Yes, Atharvam. Yes, Miss Atharvam.
Okay.
The female counterpart as Silsmita, where he is trying to offer. She is from the lower caste, and she is the female counterpart while doing these